Big-time Obama advisor David Axelrod, you may remember him from 2 Obama victories, unfortunately. Axelrod is now saying that it might be time for Joe Biden to go. And we kind of think that Joe Biden is maybe Obama's second or third term, rather. Maybe they want to get Joe out of there to start paving the way for Michelle, who knows what. But Axelrod's kind of a big name. A lot of Democrats listen to him, and he's saying now on the Hill that Biden probably has got to go. Okay, why polls are not looking so good for him. He said that on Sunday, during the Sunday shows, it's not looking good. A new poll showing incumbent Biden trailing Trump. He's pointing to a New York Times and a Siena College poll, both published on Sunday. Axelrod hopped on X. He said, it's very late to change horses. A lot will happen in the next year that no one can predict, and Biden's team says his resolve to run is firm, saying Biden is proud of his accomplishments, but Biden's poll numbers should send tremors of doubt throughout the Democratic Party. He's saying it's not bedwetting, but it is a serious concern. He wrote this over on the platform. Here's what it looked like. He says, very late to change horses. A lot will happen in the next year that no one can predict, and Biden's team says his resolve to run is firm. He's defied CW before, but this will send tremors of doubt through the party. Not bedwetting, but legitimate concern. Says the POTUS is justly proud of his accomplishments. What? Failed Afghanistan, 2 wars now brewing. We have border, we have inflation, we have an economic concern for most Americans coming out. It's not good, but all right. Trump is dangerous, unhinged. He's a demagogue. His brazen disdain for the rules, norms, laws, blah, blah, blah. But the stakes of miscalculation here are too dramatic to ignore. So they're hitting the panic button. Axelrod saying it's probably time to go. Now, the polls are not looking so good. The re-election campaign might be in rocky water. It says the poll found 71% of registered voters said that they agree to some degree that Biden, quote, is just too old to be an effective president. However, only 39% say the same about Trump. Politico's saying the same thing, saying this is not just a one-off, right? There are 2 outlier polls here, or these are not outliers. There are 2 polls that support this, saying that there are 6 warning signs for Biden now in a new battleground state poll. It says the latest results from 2 polls, New York Times and Siena College, released on Sunday. Among likely voters, Trump led Biden in 4 of the 6 battleground states, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, tied in another Michigan, and just behind 1 point in Wisconsin. Trump lost all 6 states in 2020. Now he's up, but his leads over Biden were all at least by 5 percentage points, which is good for Trump. They're not outliers in showing Biden is in peril. Another CBS poll, also released on Sunday, showed Trump leading Biden 51% to 48%, a reversal of Biden's 51% to 47% in the last election. Poll results have prompted tons of hand-wringing among prominent Democrats. Is Biden too old? Plus 42 say yes. Do you think Biden's policies have helped you or hurt you personally? 17% say, yeah, hurt. Swing state voters unhappy. Voters under 30 are only Biden plus 6, when that number should be much, much higher. The numbers suggest there's a problem for Biden amongst the young. Too old. Biden with Hispanic voters are only plus 10. That number should have been looks like much higher too. People who say what issue is the most important for them? Economics. By plus 34. Abortion, the Biden and the Democrats are still going to crush on that issue. Always or mostly legal, 2-to-1 advantage on the issue of abortion. But is that going to outweigh all of the other things like economics? And so they're panicking a little bit. Here is what CNN said about Joe Biden's performance with Black Americans. This is Democrat Representative Jasmine Crockett. And she says maybe that they're not understanding how any of this works. Here's her
office.
Oh my gosh. Let's listen.
Perception is reality. And so when you look at the data that was provided in this poll, it talks about how people feel. And when people decide whether they're going to the poll or whether they're not going to the poll, it's all about how you feel in that moment. And so while the facts may not align with their feelings are dictating their reality. Their reality is that they said that they feel better or they felt better when Trump was in office. But we've been trying to push back. We've got some very popular African-American artists that are out here saying things like, oh, I got checks when Trump was in office. I want those checks again, not understanding that that really came from Congress. So we've got a couple of things, the perception issue, and then we also have an issue as it relates to civics in this country and people not understanding exactly how any of this works.
Oh, man. That's interesting. So I guess the voters that she's talking about are just too dumb to figure this out. And feelings are dictating their reality. Just a bunch of emotional hysterics out there. Hey, just don't, I just don't get it, idiots. Unfortunately, they don't understand how this works. Maybe they should listen to us, and those artists don't know what they're talking about. So that feels like the panic button to me, and here is the old tried and true defense card: misogyny and racism. Anytime the Democrats are doing poorly, guess why? Misogyny and racism. Who's going to explain this to us? Well, none other than Stacey Abrams on our favorite MSNBC show called Inside Jen Psaki.
I wanted to ask you about the vice president, because she has been under a huge amount of scrutiny through her entire time in office. I think there's a lot of reasons for this, but I want to ask you, as a prominent woman of color who's run for office, do you think she would be receiving these same critiques if she was a white man?
No.
No, not at all.
No. We will always question.
No, if we just swapped Kamala for a white man, then suddenly we wouldn't be critical of the border. We wouldn't make fun of her. Look, if there was a white dude out there, some white guy, who was also a total failure at everything else, and then also sat around, probably drunk most of the time, laughing at his own jokes, talking about USB ports and Venn diagrams, yeah, we'd be making fun of that guy too, okay? We make fun of all the white people like Pencil Neck Schiff and Stinky Eric Swalwell and all of them. So they're just incompetent, okay? It's incompetence.
The person behind the person. But we cannot ignore that misogyny and racism remain very prevalent in our politics. And for those behaviors that don't rise to either misogyny or racism,
then what is
there's also just the difference. Our expectations are set for the traditional white male vice president.
Oh, right. Okay.
I wanted to ask you about the vice president, because she...
Our expectations are set for a white male president, I guess. And so now that Kamala's in there, she's not a white male, that's for sure. And she is just, well, I don't know really what she's doing. I mean, I don't think she knows really what she's doing. That's the problem. It has nothing to do with her gender or her race. It has everything to do with her competence. And Americans are feeling it. That's why the polls are what the polls are. And even David Axelrod now is saying it might be time for Joe to go. Now, the question is, why might that be? Why should Joe Biden now exit? And if he does, who's going to be the replacement? Is it going to be Newsom, or is it going to be Michelle Obama, who's going to be the real third term for Obama, or maybe the fourth term in practice? So we'll see. Interesting news. Now, when you start to see these big anchors in the party start to throw in the towel, might be the beginning of the breaking of the dam. Of course, we'll continue to follow, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining us as we continue to cover this and more, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.